guys, and welcome to the show. Today, a quick review of a recent impulse buy, the Dan Henry 1972. Now, usually I shoot an unboxing, but as I have a friend who actually owns this watch, I knew roughly what I was expecting, and also it arrived while I was working in Italy, so I'm going to skip it this time and go right into the review, as I've been wearing this non-stop for about a week. Before I get into this review, I'll do a quick wristwatch check. I'm wearing the Explorer on that waffle strap, that new waffle strap from Riscani Watch Club. They've absolutely knocked it out of the park. I love how it wears. Gives it a sporty, very comfortable, it's extremely substantial. I'll leave a link down below. They got many other colors. Might even try the olive one, but yeah, fantastic. Well done, Riscani Watch Club. Love this strap. In fact, I might even put it on my Tudor sub, I think. Yeah. Now, for all the naysayers, this is, as always, an unsponsored review. And truly independent. Like all the watches I own, I bought this with my own money. Now, sometimes I do borrow watches from official authorized dealers, but my reviews are always as fair and honest as possible. Otherwise, well, what's the point? And I've always said, you can be a watch dealer or you can be a watch reviewer. You cannot do both. So I shared the buying experience in the previous video, and only a few days later it arrived. Unfortunately, I was away from home. Now, the shipping was extremely quick to the USA, but as always, a little bit of backstory to help contextualize. This watch purchase was actually inspired by the 1986 movie Top Gun, and beyond that, the superstar actor Tom Cruise. Now, I have expressed my admiration for Mr. Cruise before, especially his work on the Mission Impossible franchise. Despite a few ropey sequels in the middle, the last installment in particular, Fallout, being one of the greatest spy action movies in recent years in my opinion. This actually led me to buy the Casio DW290 he wore in the first movie, and by now I'm sure you're all sick of me rabbiting on how it has become my favourite Casio. Top Gun, however, is a very different beast entirely, as it was his first action movie and transformed the actor from risky business teenage heartthrob into the poster boy for American military might at the height of the Cold War. So why am I a Tom Cruise fan? Well, firstly, it's his talent. His work ethic and dedication to his craft is unquestionably highly admirable. But let's not forget, he's worked for some of the greatest directors of all time: Stanley Kubrick, Steven Spielberg, Brian De Palma, Martin Scorsese, Paul Thomas Anderson, John Woo, Oliver Stone, Tony and Ridley Scott, Michael Mann, just to name a few. Controversies about his private life aside, which frankly is none of my business, he remains part of the last generation of great American movie stars. His role as US Navy pilot Maverick, which today's watch is named after, came at a pivotal moment in world history. The film was quite literally a finger up at the Soviets following a real-life shooting down of Korean Airlines Flight 007 and the subsequent global indignation. The uber-80s macho military masculinity of the movie galvanized the nation against Reagan's so-called evil empire, and its cultural impact, as what Italian historian Alessandro Barbero called soft war propaganda, was immeasurable. After the movie, US Navy recruitment went up by 500%. Sales of Ray-Ban aviators almost doubled. Bomber jackets became the hottest trend, and naturally Tom Cruise's own watch he wore in the movie became a certified icon. It was the 1972 Porsche Design Chronograph by Ofina. Porsche Design was founded that year, and interestingly, it was their first release. At the time, there were no all-black watches, so when Porsche Design introduced it, with its austere matte all-black PVD-coated steel case and bracelet, it created something of a sensation. Tom Cruise, being famously the immersive actor he's known for, saw it was favoured by many military pilots and chose to buy one for himself. Being one of the world's most renowned watch collectors with over 1,500 pieces in his own collection, it is no surprise that Brazilian collector Dan Henry took inspiration from these pieces with his own brand that he started in 2016. To share, document and educate the world on watches, Dan took his awe-inspiring collection and created an interactive website called timeline.watch. It remains one of the best, most informative, totally free and easiest ways to learn about watches online. It was also the inspiration for what later would be one of the best micro brands in the world. So we'll start with the materials first, and the watch is entirely stainless steel and also completely PVD coated, with the exception of the case back, which we'll discuss a little bit more later on. It's got sapphire crystal, which is a flat sapphire crystal, and it does have anti-reflective treatment on the inside, and they've done a really good job with that. We're looking at 41 millimeters in diameter, a height of about 12.5 there, really short 45 millimeter lug to lug, and I would say the lug width is 20 millimeters there. Great proportions. I was a little bit dubious about 41 millimeter size, but it wears incredibly small because there's hardly any lugs. This is a 12-hour chronograph. We've got the 12 hours there on the left, and then minutes divided into 60 at the top, and of course the split seconds. Now this is due to a Miyota 0S80 quartz movement, Japanese made. It's one of the higher end in the Miyota family. It's one of what they consider their professional chronographs, and if I'll engage it, you'll see the split seconds at the bottom there. So that's 1/10 of a split second. Very useful if you want to do precision timing, and this will go around for the first 30 seconds. And also it's got, you don't have to stop start, you can just press the bottom pusher to reset. And to engage the alarm, we have another kind of pusher. It's almost like a crown, I guess, because you can pull it out. You see there the little indicator, so that's on now, and I'll just let the chronograph run so you can see when it gets to the bottom there, that subdial will stop. But if you start it again, it still gives you a reading of that 1/10 of a second. Now if we unscrew the crown, it's quite unusual that it's a screw down crown because the water resistance is only 50 meters, and you have to consider there is a lot of places, you know, for chronographs always lower because you have more points of entry. Now if you pull it out to the first position, this then moves that other hand and enables you to select where you want an alarm, and it's quite an audible alarm, repetitions of 3 beeps, and I did test it out. It actually woke me up this morning, and if you turn it the other way, you got the rapid date change there. Now the battery has a 2-year battery life and is accurate to about plus or minus 20 seconds per month in normal operating temperatures. Now the Luminova, it's pretty good. I'm not sure what type of luminescence it is, but we get a pretty good orientation. Every single hand on this dial is treated. Again, very unusual. You don't tend to see that, and I love the fact that the arrow hand, or the arrow tip rather, on the alarm hand is also loomed up. It doesn't last too long, but considering its rather diminutive size, yeah, it's pretty good. Now the bracelet, again, we'll discuss this because probably in the negative section. The finishing is really great. We've got this matte, non-reflective black, and we do get 2 micro adjustments, which thank God, because I really needed the micro adjustment. I'm kind of in between links in terms of size, but it tapers nicely. It's what you'd come to expect. It just wears wonderfully on my 6¼ inch wrist. I mean, really nice. Feels masculine and sturdy, and it's quite solid feeling. It's only 65 grams, but compared to his other watches is substantially heavier. One concern I had about this watch is the lack of low battery indication. If you see on my Flighty, when it's you see the permanent sub-seconds there, when it's running low on juice, it will skip every second and just count the 2, so you get advanced warning, and that's very, very useful, especially you don't want it to die on you when you're out and about, and perhaps you're depending on your watch for timekeeping and you're going to be late. Press the B button there, and you see the sub-seconds then becomes the sub-seconds of the time, not the split seconds. So very nifty, and you just boop, back, there you go. And also, if you unscrew the crown and pull it out all the way, makes it hackable. Pretty cool. As the name implies, Porsche Design is inherently automotive in its philosophy when it comes to the design language, and being mainly designed by their founder, Ferdinand Alexander Porsche. This explains the tachymeter on the very wide sloping inner chaptering and the motivations behind the black finish. It is similar in thinking to the parkerization you see on military watches, but in this case, not to give away a position, but rather not to reflect light back at the driver and distract him while racing. This, I feel, is an important aspect to the design, and another reason I chose it over the bead-blasted silver variation Dan Henry also offers. This all-black look would be adopted and inspire an entire watch industry when it comes to racing chronographs. Just look at the Hoya Pasadena from 1979, or the previously discussed Seiko Speedmasters of the 80s by Giugiaro. As always with Dan's designs, there is a beautifully executed decorative screw-in caseback. This time, the raised, polished motif, contrasted against the bead-blast background, is a Ducati 750 Imola Desmo, a racing motorcycle built by Ducati that won the 1972 Imola 200 race in the hands of Paul Smart. According to Wikipedia, and I quote, "This win helped define Ducati's approach to racing." And personally, I think it's a fitting choice to commemorate the year that this racing watch is also named after. With all of Dan's creations, there's always something a little special that separates it from being merely a straight recreation or exact copy of a past icon. Sometimes, like my current favourite of his watches that I personally own, the 1962, it's an amalgamation of several watches. In that example, there are elements of the Omega Speedmaster mixed with the Universal Genève Evil Nina. This time, Dan has added a sandwich dial, resulting in a pleasing but subtle extra sense of depth to the face of the watch. The dash a candy red and choice of more restrained yellow off-white for the faux patina works wonderfully with most of the printed text in an ultra-legible crisp white. The curvy, verging on tonneau-shaped case is very quintessentially 1970s. The hooded short lugs make the bracelet seem almost integrated. This works well in conjunction with the elegantly tapering H-shaped 3-link bracelet. This remarkably complex quartz movement also fits the aesthetic of the watch with its total of 8 hands. The extra alarm hand mimicking the big minute hand that would have been in the original Lemania 5100 based Porsche Fino. Incidentally, the same legendary movement utilized in my super rare Fortis Cosmonaut Chrono, but in that watch it has the lovable neon jet tip in order to track the minutes of the chronograph. This watch has kind of, broken my heart a little bit, and we'll get into that in just a moment. So the first obvious thing is the PVD will alienate a lot of people. It wears off over time, especially with more intense wear and tear. Although I have to say, for me, I don't mind, because if you look at the one, especially you can see in the Blu-ray of Top Gun quite clearly now, Tom Cruise's own watch, you can see the exposed steel and a lot of the bracelet and the top bit of the case. I don't mind it, but for those more OCD inclined, you will loathe that. Also, the pin and collar links are very rudimentary. It would have been nice to see screwed in links. It was an absolute pain to size, but once sized it, yeah, it is very comfortable. There's no hair pulling or any of that. It does feel fairly flimsy and dated, but I guess it kind of captures the watches of that age. Also, it's not a strap monster. You're limited in compatibility because of the PVD. You're going to have to get matching hardware unless you don't mind it looking a little odd. And also, it's super sporty, utilitarian looking. I love that, but the downside is obviously you can't wear it to the opera when suited and booted. This is more for casual, super casual, maybe even casual smart, but you want to wear this with a leather jacket on a Ducati, Ray-Bans on, or in my case Purcell, but you know what I'm saying. What else? Naturally, I would have loved this to be an automatic. However, it would have pushed up the price a couple of thousand, undoubtedly. Your first bet would be probably a Valjoux 7750, and you would have lost some of that charm, because it's quite, it's not too tubby. I love the fit. I wouldn't want to see it any more tubby. If you see on the Fortis here. You can see with the original movement, the Lamagna that the Fortis actually has, how tubby that is. I know we're only talking a few millimeters, but honestly 1 or 2 millimeters make the world of difference when it comes to how a watch wears. We've seen that time and time again. What else? Well, the main downfall is the movement. Unfortunately, and this is not Dan's fault, but this is why I'm a little bit heartbroken, the minute hand does not zero correctly. If I just reset it, gains a minute randomly, so now it doesn't set at all to 0 and it shows 30 minutes. If you pull out the crown, pull it out all the way, you can change the alignment of the seconds hand by holding it down. So let's say if it was off, put it back to 12. With the bottom pusher, you can set the sub dial there. There we go. There, you see, with the B pusher. This here should have been linked in conjunction with the seconds hand. It's not lining up. So if you reset it, if you start the chronograph and reset it, it's just not budging. So this is a fault of the movement, and I got to be honest, I'm quite disappointed. This unfortunately, you know, is not uncommon, and I found online this has happened to several people. I understand why it's a screw down crown now, even though it's only 50 meters water resistant, because when you pull out the crown, it is extremely wobbly. Just look at that. You thought the Black Bay 58 was bad. Well, this is quite, what's the right word, disconcerting. So yeah, I've been fiddling about with it, trying to reset that hand. If anybody knows how to do that, maybe there's a hack. I even took out the battery to try and reset it. It's a little bit suspicious as well, because even Miyota have completely pulled all the details from their own website about this movement, so you don't see it too often. It's a bit of an unusual one, and I suspect this problem with the minute hand is a pervasive one, and therefore probably the reason why they phased it out, if they have. You know, I'm merely speculating at this point. Just like any watch from Dan, it still offers tremendous fun with its sexy yet masculine feel, that touch of associated movie magic, and the romance of motor racing. It certainly evokes all of that, along with a ton of functionality, all for very little cost. That is, of course, if you can get one that works correctly. Making amazing watches more accessible to the masses has always been the aim of the brand, making timepieces like this available not just for collectors with deep pockets or those lucky enough to find some of those rare pieces he bases his designs from. These modern interpretations are also a lot less fragile in comparison to their vintage counterparts, far more dependable, well, for the most part, accurate and very affordable to maintain. And speaking of value, much to the annoyance of the same watch snobs, the value retention here, due to being a limited amount and individually numbered, will hopefully protect it, especially when the sequel to Top Gun is released next year in 2022, as the Orfina Porsche Design watch was spotted in the trailer. Its strengths are obviously its design, fit and feel, along with the great quality when it comes to the precision in the dial work, and for the most part, the consistent finishing. The overly sensitive man-baby watch snobs will forever get their knickers in a twist when it comes to this brand. But for those of us who do not have thousands to spend, but desire a little Maverick-esque feel without breaking the bank, this is undoubtedly a great option. The 1972 technically is far superior, with far more useful complications, better value for money, and I still believe one of his strongest offerings yet. I absolutely love this watch, and I struggle to think of a racing chrono, despite its problems, that is better for the same money. So, as always, I'm going to be very honest with my review. Well, I love this watch. It was really fun until the issue with the chronograph there getting progressively worse, which just renders it kind of useless for me, because I do actually use chronographs quite a lot. So yeah, it's not entirely Dan Henry's fault. It's the fault really of this particular movement, although I do feel if he had done more testing, thorough testing on each 1972 before shipping, could have avoided this kind of thing. Please, if any of you guys have had the same experience, do share that in the comments. It is a very complex quartz movement, and therefore with more complex movements there's more likelihood of something going wrong, because there are actual mechanical components and gears moving, driving these hands and so on. So with 8 hands 8 times more chance of something going wrong. I'm going to reach out to Dan and either exchange this hopefully, or get this one fixed. I don't particularly mind. I have really bonded with it, so I do want to keep it. It hasn't put me off Dan Henry as a brand. The 1962 here is still my favorite, and I think a rock solid choice. This came so close to being my favorite new chrono under $500. The crown still goes to dear old Flighty. I mean, the Flighty has the history, has the heritage. Also, it's a lot tougher, 200 meters water resistance with just as many, if not more, complications, dual time zone, all the rest of it. So it's very, very difficult to beat the Seiko Flighty there. So I'm hoping I get this sorted, because I do really want to wear this when Top Gun 2 comes out next year in 2022. I'd love to be wearing this. But yeah, a mixed bag, but even with all its faults, if I can get it fixed, it's still going to be part of my collection. Right, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know your thoughts, queries, comments, opinions, all the rest of it down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful. And as always, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.